You probably needed the rest. You're catching up.
Yes, trying to catch up.
So, okay, I'm putting this back on Facebook now that I'm out of Facebook jail. We'll go
Oh,
on
very
Facebook
nice.
finally,
Uh-huh.
and also in and simultaneously, I guess we're going on. All right, I better give this a title. See, it's just about to appear on Facebook here. Edit posts. Okay. And Nectar of Instruction, verse number 1. Yay. I told Dayanidhi the other day, because he said he was happy he brought you. And I said, well, Krishna Chandra is the most steady devotee of all. He's there even before me.
Oh,
So maybe you can encourage him to come and join us.
I will do
Okay.
everything I can, Prabhu, for sure.
Yeah, because I mean he's driving. What do you call it? Uber. So he may be busy, but
Yeah.
okay. So let me come back here to our little group. All right, and share screen. Okay. And what am I looking for here? I'm looking for our song for tonight. So I thought in honor of Srila Rupa Goswami, that we would read, we would sing the this Sad Goswami prayers.
Oh, yes.
I'm just going to see if I can find the link here and send this to our friend Tridani Swami, and see if he'll join us. It's like 5 o'clock in the morning or something in Navadvip for him.
So, yes.
Not the most practical, but I'll see. Okay, please come right now or in a few minutes to glorify Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada with us for whatever minutes you can spare. I'll start the Sad Goswami Astakam right now. Okay, here we go. Okay, it'll be a nice surprise if Maharaj could join us.
Absolutely.
And let's see. I know a nurse. Her name is Madhavi. Maybe she can come. Okay. I'm just trying to see who I can recruit, Anyway. Oh, here's one to my godbrother, Subhavalas. He's in town. He's about an hour and a half from me. Okay, coming back here to the page. Trying to get this done. I already invited a bunch of people about an hour ago, but it takes a little effort to try to invite everyone.
I can imagine.
Okay. I'll make this a little bit smaller. Let's see. This is too big.
What is
zoom out? Zoom out. Zoom out. If I was more expert, I'd have all this prepared and done ahead of time instead of making you wait.
That's okay.
I'm trying to, okay, good. I got a good size on that. Let's see if I can make it a little bit bigger. Tell me what you think of this font. I'm just trying to make it, because not everyone, okay, this is a good font right now. I'm pretty sure. All right, tell me what you think. What do you think of that font? Good size?
Yeah, I can read it clearly. There's no problem.
So yes, we call this, there she's, our god sisters here, Nandapatni
Hello.
Prabhu with a capital P, Mataji with a
Yeah.
capital M. I'll allocate accolades. Ki Jai.
How are
Dhanavad pranam.
you?
Well, you really inspired me today. Well, you inspire me every day, but especially today because you reminded me. You said, "Oh, who that nice devotee from India?" And I thought, yes, I must remember to invite him back tonight. So I wrote to Ananteshvara Prabhu and Shaila Vasini, and let's see who's that there. There's somebody. I can't. There's no names, so. Someone's offering, they're very humbly offering their obeisances, but it's hard to.
Okay.
Who is that?
Okay, good. Galaxy 8. Who's
My
that?
name is Jalanki Dasi.
Jalangi. Wow, we're
Yes.
finally meeting. Joanna on Facebook, right?
Yes, I had some problems with connection.
Oh, so nice. You're in Germany, aren't you?
Yes.
Okay, wie geht's? Guten Tag. Dankeschön.
Sehr gut.
You're good.
Guten Tag, Hare Krishna. Guten
Morgen.
Tag.
Fast. It's
Yeah,
almost-
if you can put a
it's
little more
almost-
light on yourself, that would be great. Otherwise, you look like you're in the Radha Damodar rooms of Prabhupada. That's not such a bad thing, but
Our most humble obeisances to all of you great souls.
businesses to you, dear
Wow.
Jalangi. Who gave you such a beautiful name, Jalangi Devi Dasi? Do you
My
mind me
Diksha
asking?
Guru-
Okay,
Diksha
I
Guru-
thought so.
my
Yes.
Diksha Guru is Krishna Kshetra Swami Maharaj.
Oh, very nice. I met him in the airport on my way when I arrived in India. He's a sweetie pie. You know why he's a sweetie pie?
Pray tell.
You know why Krishna
Please
Kshetra Swami is a
Please
sweetie pie?
explain.
Because Srila Prabhupada baked him. I said that to my godbrother one time, Kaliyapani. I said, wow, these devotees, they're just a bunch of sweetie pies. And he said, you know why they're sweetie pies? I said, why? He said, because Srila Prabhupada baked them. You know, you bake a pie and it becomes nice and sweet. So, anyway. So we're going to start. You're just in time for the first verse of the Sri Upadeshamrita. And I thought before that, each night maybe I could sing one of the prayers of the six Goswamis just to get in the mood. And this was written by Srinivasacharya. Often this is sung before Nectar of Devotion, but I thought, well, what's the difference really? Why not? And so because Srila Rupa Goswami is being glorified in this song. So this is the prayer to the six Goswamis of Vrindavan. The tune presented here is the version Srila Prabhupada sang in. There may be other tunes. The format here is in Tintal. Anyway, here's the words. And I would like to sing this according to the tune that Srila Prabhupada sings on that wonderful tape that came out called Krishna Meditations. In the meantime, Krishna Chandra Prabhu, could you please look up the translation for this and maybe you could read it to us after we finish singing this? Is that okay?
Oh, that's fine, Prabhu. Is it not part of this website? That
No, for
we're
some
on right
reason I don't see it. I don't see the translation down below.
Okay, actually, you're in luck. I already have it. It's on my smartphone though. I have to bring it into.
Yes, Sad Goswami asked to come.
Should not. It won't take me long. I'll post it.
Shall I just do this? Shall I just do this myself, or should I have everyone respond? Or what do you think, Nandapatni? Are we capable of responding?
It's kind of easier if you do it in a way, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Krishna Kirtana Ganana Tanaparo Premamritam Bonedi Dira Dira Jana Priyo Priyakaro Nirmat saro pujito. Krishna kirtana gananatana paro. Premamritam bonedi. Dira dira janna priyo priyakaro. Nirmatsaro pujito. Shri Chaitanya Kripa Baro Bhuvi Bhuvo Bharavahantara Ko Vande Rupa Sanatano Raghuyugo Shri Jiva Gopalako Shri Chaitanya Kripa Baro Bhuvi Bhuvo Bhavaran Vande Rupa Sanatano Raghuyugo Shri Jiva Gopalako Vande Rupa Sanatano Raghuyugo Shri Jiva Gopalako. Would you like to read the translation, please, Krishna Chandra?
Oh, yes, Prabhu. One moment, I apologize. I'm right there. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the 6 Goswamis, namely Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Sanatan Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, and Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who are always engaged in chanting the holy name of Krishna and dancing. They are just like the ocean of love of God, and they are popular both with the gentle and with the ruffians, because they are not envious of anyone. Whatever they do, they are all pleasing to everyone, and they are fully blessed by Lord Chaitanya. Thus, they are engaged in missionary activities meant to deliver all the conditioned souls in the material universe.
Report by Nandapatni Devi Dasi.
What? That's a very nice translation, by the way. I don't know who translated that, but it's a little bit different from the original songbook, I think.
It's on the PrabhupadaConnection.com.
Mm-hmm.
It may be directly from what does it say? Does he mention if it's coming from a book or a class or?
Unfortunately, it is not specified.
One would think it's coming from the original songbook. Does anything stand out for anybody from that verse? First of all, it states that the 6 Goswamis were very enriched in understanding of Lord Chaitanya, and thus expert in narrating his transcendental qualities. So that's a reminder for us to become expert in narrating the transcendental qualities of Lord Chaitanya, since we're following in the footsteps of the 6 Goswamis. And it states they can purify all conditioned souls from the reactions of their sinful activities. How? Oh, I'm reading the wrong, I'm reading the wrong translation here. Excuse me. Yeah, they're always engaged in chanting the holy name of Krishna and dancing. That's an important point, I think. You know, we say in Guru Vashtaka, in the second verse, Mahaprabho Kirtana Nritya Gita. Nritya Gita means that chanting the holy name, dancing in ecstasy, because we see a lot of Harinam parties these days. They like to sit down, but actually dancing is also a vital aspect of our process. And I think it's also, sorry for saying, but I think a secondary benefit is it keeps us in good health as well. So there's a reason to dance. And I think a sign of that if we're chanting nicely, then aren't we often inspired to want to dance? If we're doing nice kirtan, we want to get up and move.
Well, it's interesting how incredibly enthusiastic the Eastern European and Russian devotees are. The women in particular, they get into all these formations and they have bands and they do these sort of routines. And I mean, they make it very attractive without being distracting. Yeah.
I guess that depends, how fixed of a brahmachari you are.
I'm talking about the public, Prabhu.
For the public, yes, for the public. Correct. Jivan Mukta, you have anything to say on this verse? Thank you for coming. He's very busy with many things, but still he's making time for us. Jalangi, I'd like to introduce you to my friend Krishna Chandra Prabhu. He's a disciple of Srila Prabhupada's godbrother Bhakti Vaibhav Puri Maharaj, who he personally met. And you don't see Jivan Mukta right now. Maybe he'll give us his darshan. Oh, there he is. So I've known Jivan Mukta Prabhu since 1979 when he had met my god sister distributing BTGs on the street. And he showed up at the Toronto temple and I had the good fortune to meet him. And so he's been serving Srila Prabhupada since 1979. And so Jalangi Devi Dasi, she's come all the way from Germany to join us tonight.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Are you near the Hamburg temple or the Frankfurt temple, or which temple is that? Berlin?
I'm at home.
Okay.
But the place is Berlin.
In Berlin. Okay. Yes, I think
Berlin temple
Berlin.
is almost closed.
Oh, wow. Uh-huh. Yes, challenging times we're living in. Srila Prabhupada was so happy to open up Germany. I believe he sent Shivananda Prabhu, and I think someone named Uttama Shloka, not the Uttama Shloka that Jivan Mukta and I know, but another one that I never met. And someone named Krishna Das. These are like some of the very first founders of the German Yatra. When did you meet the devotees, Jalangi? What year was that? And who was the first devotee you met, if you don't mind sharing?
Oh my goodness. I feel like in TV.
No, I'm not interrogating. Just interested to know you a little bit more. That's all. That's all.
We joined in Poland.
Oh.
I think it was 1987.
Mm-hmm.
And we had actually only Harikesh Maharaj at that time coming, visiting. And 1 year later also Krishna Kshetra Swami Maharaj, Indradyumna Maharaj.
Mm-hmm.
Yay, Indradyumna Swami.
Sachinandana Maharaj, Bhakti Bhushana Maharaj.
Wow, a lot of great association. Yeah.
And a few others.
So when you say we, you mean you and your husband, is that correct?
I usually say we when I think about myself.
Okay.
Just I do not feel I am alone. It's always spiritual master. It's always super soul. I'm not doing anything. I'm just.
Yes, Krishna is doing everything, moving us around, connecting us. So thank you for connecting us with you tonight. Very happy you could join us.
Yes, but I must say I joined through the books. It was one Sankirtan devotee distributor who was distributing books during Prabhupada's marathon. And I received books under
Very
Christmas tree.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm very grateful to. I don't know even who he was.
What was the first book?
First book I had few months earlier. It was Bhagavad Gita. First Polish edition, big one. And yes, I could not understand anything, but pictures were very nice.
Yes.
I
Yes.
had to become vegetarian months later, few months later, and then we had Srimad Bhagavatam.
You probably know this story. Hare Krishna, Linda. Welcome. Glad you could make it.
Oh, thank you.
Jai. Yeah, I heard Harikesh Prabhu tell the story where he was Srila Prabhupada's personal servant. And one day Prabhupada chastised him and said, anybody can be my servant. Why don't you go and do something for your spiritual master? And Harikesh was like totally shocked. And at first he thought, maybe I should commit suicide because I'm not doing anything for Srila Prabhupada. And then he thought about it and he realized he was, Super Soul reminded him that Srila Prabhupada is very, very pleased when his books are published and distributed. So he started publishing the first books in the European languages, many languages, Polish, Yugoslavian, etc. And then after he published a few of them, he brought them to Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada was so pleased with them. He patted him on the head. And I think he said that Prabhupada started to cry, saying, you did not realize why I sent you away. But I sent you away because I knew you were capable of doing much more than what you were doing as my personal servant. Did you hear that story before, Jalangi?
Yes.
Did I leave something out?
Yes, we heard many stories, but it's always good to memorize again and again.
Did I leave something out of that story, or was that pretty accurate?
Okay, I don't remember in details.
Okay. All right. So why don't we start with the Nectar of Instruction as we had planned. And I'll just find it here. Okay, I'll share the screen. And let's see, screen sharing. Sharing the screen. Okay. So how about a couple of paragraphs each? And if anyone has a question or a comment, then we can just jump in. The Krishna consciousness movement is conducted under the supervision of Srila Rupa Goswami. The Gaudiya Vaishnavas or Bengali Vaishnavas are mostly followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of whom the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan are direct disciples. Therefore, Srila Narottam Das Thakur has sung Rupa Raghunatha Pade Hoibe Akuti Kabe Hama Bujaba Se Jugala Piriti. When I am eager to understand the literature given by the Goswamis, then I shall be able to understand the transcendental loving affairs of Radha and Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in order to bestow upon human society the benediction of the science of Krishna. The most exalted of all the activities of Lord Krishna are his pastimes of conjugal love with the gopis. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in the mood of Srimati Radharani, the best of the gopis. Therefore, to understand the mission of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and follow in his footsteps, one must very seriously follow in the footsteps of the 6 Goswamis, Sri Rup, Sanatan, Bhatta Raghunath, Sri Jiva, Gopal Bhatta, and Dasa Raghunath. Nandapatni, please.
Sri Rupa Goswami was the leader of all the Goswamis, and to guide our activities, he gave us this Upadeshamrita, the Nectar of Instruction, to follow. As Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left behind him the 8 verses known as the Shikshastaka, Rupa Goswami gave us Upadeshamrita so that we may become pure Vaishnavas. In all spiritual affairs, one's first duty is to control the mind and the senses. Unless one controls his mind and senses, one cannot make any advancement in spiritual life. Everyone within this material world
Whoops, what happened there? Okay, sorry about that.
is something is, hang on,
Engrossed. Engrossed?
where is it? Oh, in the material world is engrossed in the modes of passion and ignorance. One must promote himself to the platform of goodness, Sattva Gun, by following the instructions of Rupa Goswami. And then everything concerning how to make further progress will be revealed.
I've always heard how being in Sattva Gun, in the mode of goodness, is like a stepping stone, because from the mode of goodness, then we can enter into Shuddha Sattva, or pure goodness. And that's why it's good to take advantage of those morning hours, because that's the mode of goodness hours. And as the day goes on, the mode of passion kicks in, and then the mode of ignorance comes at night. So yeah, important to strive for Sattva. Jalangi, would you like to read 2 paragraphs, please? Or at least this one. I think there's just 1 paragraph left to this preface.
Yes. Advancement in Krishna consciousness depends on the attitude of the follower. A follower of the Krishna consciousness movement should become a perfect Goswami. Vaishnavas are generally known as Goswamis. In Vrindavan, this is the title by which the director of each temple is known. One who wants to become a perfect devotee of Krishna must become a Goswami. Go means the senses and Swami means the master. Unless one controls his senses and mind, one cannot become a Goswami. To achieve the highest success in life by becoming a Goswami and then a pure devotee of the Lord, one must follow the instructions known as Upadeshamrita, which have been given by Srila Rupa Goswami. Srila Rupa Goswami has given many other books, such as Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Vidagdha Madhava, and Lalita Madhava. But Upadeshamrita constitutes the first instructions for neophyte devotees. One should follow these instructions very strictly. Then it will be easier to make one's life successful. Hare Krishna, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, September 20th, 1975, Vishwarupa Mahotsava, Krishna Balaram Mandir, Ramanareti, Vrindavan, India.
Very nice. It sounds like you're actually reading from the book, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, we can see then sometimes there's an advantage to the editing, because in this I'm reading from the very, very first one, and that doesn't say 1975 in it. So, yeah, it's nice to know that what year it was. Jiva Mukta Prabhu, do you have any comments about this preface that we just read? Anything jump out for you?
Is he still there?
He's muted. He's muted.
He's muted. Okay. Maybe he's busy doing something right now.
No, I'm right here. Sorry.
Okay, that's all right.
I was muted. You know, I think this fundamental point of sense gratification and giving up sense gratification is foundational. I mean, it's the foundation of Krishna consciousness, and I think it can't be stressed enough. I mean, Prabhupada keeps stressing it through every purport in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that I'm reading. Pastimes of Raghunath Das Goswami, and you know, Prabhupada in the Chaitanya Charitamrita in that regard, in Pastimes of Raghunath Das Goswami, mentions how, I mean, in very, very strong language, you know, describes the materialistic mentality, which is to enjoy family life. And, you know, it's called like a place where you pass stool and just just awful, awful things. But this is how Lord Chaitanya and the devotees of who follow Lord Chaitanya see this situation, of material sense gratification. And, we see it here, in one of the primary books of instruction of Rupa Goswami, that it can't be stressed enough how we have to free ourselves from that inclination. And it sounds so simple, right? It sounds so simple, but even as devotees, we get attached to our wives, our husbands, our children. We get attached to that comfortable situation, but it's a place that Lord Chaitanya says is where you likened to a place where you pass stool. So we really have to focus on this understanding that sense gratification could come in the form of having a nice devotee wife, having kids, being very comfortable financially. That's sense gratification.
But any comments from you? Thank you, Jivan Mukta. Any comments from you, Nanda Patni, on the preface? Nothing from
No,
you?
I don't think so. I mean, Jivan Mukta's right. I mean, it's the first rung of the ladder, isn't it? Controlling one's mind and senses. And I remember actually, even when Srila Prabhupada was passing away, right at the very end, one of his final kind of sentences was about sense gratification. It always blew me away, that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what was that sentence actually.
I can't quite remember, but it was, it was this, that
Right.
that our whole, flawed existence is the fact that we're involved in this sense gratification.
Mhm. Sure.
But I mean, it was right on his deathbed at the very end. And so I thought, wow.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Highlighted.
Yeah.
I think also, Prabhupada mentioned how Krishna consciousness is a razor's edge. Why is it a razor's edge? Why isn't it just a nice big road, wide road? This is what's become these days. If you listen to a lot of these
New Age.
I don't know how you would describe them. The kind of more liberal-minded devotees.
Oh, like bridge preaching, you mean? What they call bridge preaching?
It's one thing to bring people in that way, but actual Krishna consciousness is a razor's edge, and it is a very, very narrow path that has to be walked. And what ultimately distinguishes it as such is that we really have to be focused on shedding this inclination of sense gratification. That is so fundamental that the story of Raghunath Das Goswami is so instructional in that regard. That, I mean, he was instructed by Lord Chaitanya to represent the highest level of sannyas or renunciation. He was begging at the Shringadwar, and then he considered that to be sense gratification because his mind was like a prostitute, always waiting, who's going to give me this, and maybe this person's going to give, so you know what I mean? It's like when it's a constant self-assessment of, why am I doing this?
Constant introspection.
Yes. And a constant reminder of that everything that we do should be for Krishna's pleasure, not for ours. And it's not something that's that easy. It's not so easy. So, you know, the Nectar of Instruction, yeah, we have to read it and remind ourselves of the basics, because sometimes we talk about, you know, the gopis and, you know, this and that, and we're still inclined to enjoy Krishna consciousness. Like, we're wanting to enjoy it for ourselves, you know? I want to enjoy it. Like, I want to enjoy, you know, a nice night out or something.
Right.
No, no. Our practicing of Krishna consciousness is for Krishna's enjoyment.
Mhm.
Going
That's
out
why
on
that's
our-
why the gopis said they were willing to go to hell if it meant giving the dust from their feet to cure Krishna's headache. They didn't mind. And Bhakti Vinod, didn't he say something like, I can't remember exactly the sentiment of Bhakti Vinod, but something along the lines of that he was willing to undergo all kinds of difficulties to please Krishna. Please continue.
Yeah. I mean, you know the story of Sanatana Goswami, right? When, you know, he drank some bad water in the Jharkhand forest on his way to Jagannath Puri. And he got all these sores on his body that were oozing, just smelly, you know, it was just awful, just, you know, and Lord Chaitanya hugged him, you know, would hug him, and he would get this on his body. And, but one of the interesting points there is that Sanatana Goswami and Lord Chaitanya did not cure him until later. Like, so Lord Chaitanya saw him in that state and left him in that state.
Wow.
And Sanatana Goswami did not complain at all. His complaint was not that he was suffering from these itchy sores.
Right.
His complaint was that, dear Lord, do not embrace me, because now all this nasty, oozing, you know, pus is on your transcendental body.
I'll be offending you.
I'm offending you. So Sanatana Goswami's mind was not that, Lord Chaitanya, please save me from this. Like, it's itchy, it's painful, and it's smelly. And no, he not once did he even, you know, even vaguely suggest that Lord Chaitanya helped him in that regard.
Nice point. I never heard that point made before. It's very nice. But probably I'm not sure that. Excuse me, I'm not sure that Prabhupada even makes that point. Does he? Does he?
No. But, and you know what? Sanatana Goswami could have said, "Dear Lord, you know, you helped Vasudev Datta. You know, I mean, he was, you know, right?
Right.
Vasudev Datta had sores with worms in it, but Lord Chaitanya helped them, right?
Right. Yeah. What about me? Help Vasudev Datta.
Like, you did that for Vasudev. And, you know, the interesting thing is, Lord Chaitanya, when he hugged Vasudev Datta, he immediately cured him, right? But when he hugged Sanatan, he didn't.
No.
He didn't.
And you think the reason for that is to teach us this lesson?
He taught us how completely selfless Lord Sanatana Goswami was. He did not care.
Very nice. Thank you.
He did not care.
Very nice point.
And that is Krishna consciousness. And that is what we're aspiring for. That is being free of the desire for sense gratification. That we don't care if our bodies, if Lord Chaitanya wants that, then that's what it'll be.
I think there was another aspect to this where it's emphasized that a Vaishnava is not his material body, that one should never see a Vaishnava, you know, if he has some disease or something like that, materially speaking, that a Vaishnava's body is considered completely spiritual.
Oh, that's further in the Nectar of Instruction, where it's stated that one should never see the Vaishnav's body as material, otherwise that's an offense.
Yeah.
I wanted to respond to Jivan Mukta's earlier point where he was talking about Raghunath Das Goswami, because I was hearing Prabhupada speaking in a Bhagavad Gita class he was giving. I can't remember. I thought there were 3 stages. But first of all, Raghunath Das gives up opulent prasadam, right? And then the next stage is he goes to beg for donations of food at the Sringadwar Jagannath temple. But then after he realized, like you said, he realized, oh, I'm like a prostitute. This is really not proper. And then he agreed to accept the prasadam that was thrown out, that the worms were eating.
Well, before that, he went to charitable outlets.
Okay.
That would give free food to those who needed it.
Like dharmashalas, like that.
Yeah,
thing.
like dharmashalas. And then after that, he accepted the rejected, that even the cows wouldn't eat because they were so smelly.
He would wash it, right? He'd wash it.
Wash it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so
Lord Chaitanya, Lord Chaitanya was so pleased.
Yeah, so Lord Chaitanya came to visit him. He said, Raghunath, you're not inviting me over for a prasadam. You're not. And Raghunath was, I guess, kind of embarrassed. He had nothing to offer the Lord. He said, I've heard you're having these feasts. and
actually, Swarup Damodar Goswami was the first one to grab some of that, prasadam from his hand, because he saw because he was under Swarup Damodar's care, right? And then Swarup Damodar told Lord Chaitanya, who then visited him.
Okay. And so then Lord Chaitanya came and he also snatched some of Raghunath's. Interesting point. So prasadam also can never, that's what I remember when I was in the Ottawa temple with Lakshminath, when I was a 2 year brahmachari. Lakshminath would take the chapatis from the day before, or even sometimes 2 days before, maybe we had made too many for the Sunday feast, and they'd be all dry, and he'd say, they're just like crackers. And he'd pick them up and say, you just put them in your dal and they become soft again.
I remember, Prabhu, when at the time that you were in the temple and I was just a bhakta, cleaning up after the Sunday feast and seeing all that prasadam that was being thrown out. It was like, it was something that it was so painful to see.
Like a sin.
Full plates of prasadam being thrown out.
Yeah.
And my inclination was, let's save it all. Let's take it out of the garbage and put it, and save it, because this is prasadam.
Yes. Yeah. So what I used to do after those big Sunday feasts, or especially after Janmashtami, is I would drive downtown to that park. It's on, I think it's on Gerrard Street or Church Street.
Yeah.
And all the homeless people would be there. And I'd serve out prasadam to them. And it was a blast wandering around the park, giving them plates of prasadam, homeless people. And then I used to take it to the university, and in front of the Sidney Smith building, the University of Toronto. And I'd open up my back doors and I'd be handing out all these plates to the students. And then finally the city came down. You don't have a permit for this, and you don't have proper heating or refrigerator. And they stopped me from doing it. But I did a Food for Life program one time. I took a big bread truck that we used to have that opened up on the side, like one of those chip trucks. And I went to Nathan Phillips Square and I parked there. And I was handing out free plates of prasadam to the people from the truck. And this one guy pulled up in a Mercedes. He saw what I was doing, and he walked up to my little window and he just handed me a $20 bill. And he said, you're doing good work. And then he just took off. So yes, chanting, dancing, and prasadam distribution and philosophizing. Those are our 4 activities. Jalangi, do you have anything that you'd like to share? Any thoughts that have come to you in this discussion?
Whenever I read preface, I always see this one sentence: advancement in Krishna consciousness depends on the attitude of the follower.
Mm-hmm.
This is as if the key for everyone to remember forever. And as
And
you said,
what do you think that attitude is?
oh, Anyabhilashita Shunyam, Jnana Karma, and so on.
Navratam.
Yeah,
No.
Anukurena Krishna, no? And this favorable attitude, enthusiastic. We will study it in this book.
Yes,
So.
yes. So I'm just going to do any comments from you, Krishna Chandra, before we move on.
I can't think of anything. I think Jiva
Okay,
moved
well,
on.
what I have here from the Mayapur Institute of Higher Education, where I had the good fortune to do my Bhakti Shastri in 2008, I have the workbook for it, and so in the preface, here's the summary of it. Number one, the Krishna consciousness movement is conducted under the supervision of one, Krishna, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Rupa Goswami, and the disciplic succession. Second point, in all spiritual affairs, one's first duty is to always remember Krishna, chant Hare Krishna, not be offensive, control the mind and senses. 3, advancement in Krishna consciousness depends on, as Jalangi Devi Dasi just mentioned, the attitude of the follower, one's strictness, one's qualifications, mercy. And finally, Sri Upadeshamrita constitutes the first instructions for advanced devotees, neophyte devotees, pure devotees, and senior devotees. I think that point's really interesting at the end. I mean, they're all interesting, but in other words, it doesn't matter what level you're on. Depending on the level that you're on, you're going to get something out of the Sri Upadeshamrita that maybe another devotee may not be getting, just because of the level of consciousness you're functioning with, right?
Thank you, exactly. It was so nice what you presented now.
Yeah, so in other words, we can just go on reading Prabhupada's books again and again and again, and every time we read them, something new, some Nava Yovanam, ever fresh, ever young, ever youthful. Never, as Prabhupada would use the word hackneyed. It never becomes dry. It never becomes dull. It's
actually just another point is that Raghunath Das was considered his following of the regulative principles was considered to be like lines that were etched in stone. That he was so strict in the regulative principles. Like, here's someone who has Lord Chaitanya there, like, like you can actually see and hear, you can see Lord Chaitanya dance, you can hear him, he's right there.
All the mercy one could ever hope to have.
Inconceivable. And yet he is so dedicated and committed to following the regulative principles, that it's described that his determination were like lines etched in stone.
Wow. What, that's Madhya Lila you're reading?
No, this is Antya Lila. And so this is an example. So there's the example of that, Raghunath, and then there's the example of Ramananda Roy, who was washing with his own hands the bodies of these young girls. And actually, Lord Chaitanya says that his activities were such that they can't even be repeated. That's what Lord Chaitanya said.
Right. What do you think he means by that?
Because he was washing their private parts.
Oh my God.
Ramananda Roy was washing their entire bodies with his own hands.
Unbelievable.
So on the one hand, Ramananda Roy is a more intimate devotee of Lord Chaitanya than even Raghunath. So you have these two examples. Now, as devotees, we can say, oh, well, you know, we got example of Raghunatha, we got example of Ramananda Roy. So,
Right.
you know, maybe we could be Ramananda Roy. No, because Lord Chaitanya also says that no one, that the example of Ramananda Roy is unique and could never be duplicated or repeated by
Cannot
anyone.
imitate.
No one, and even he doesn't understand the mind of Raghunath. And he says, I can only ascertain and hope to understand it by these verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And he quoted some verses of the Bhagavatam. But the point is that when we see two examples like that, we have to appreciate Ramananda Roy for his incredible, inconceivable position of renunciation from from one angle. That's renunciation, which is inconceivable.
Mm-hmm.
And yet we also have inconceivable type renunciation from Raghunath.
Mm-hmm.
And Raghunath Das Goswami's renunciation is the one that Lord Chaitanya was proud of for representing his disciples, his devotees.
The
Not
standard
that
that
he
we
wasn't
should.
proud, obviously, of Ramananda
No.
Roy, but it's something that cannot be duplicated and
Beyond our adhikar.
beyond, way beyond anyone's.
Yeah. Cannot imitate.
But it's an interesting example of two forms, two displays of inconceivable renunciation.
Thank you. Would you like to begin reading the first verse of the Nectar of Instruction, Jivan Mukta Prabhu? There we go. I remember reading this with you.
Yes.
79, 89, 99. That's 42 years ago or something.
How
Wow.
many years ago was that?
79, 2009 is 19 is 40 years.
42 years.
42 years ago. Wow. Yeah. Time flies when you're having fun.
Acho vegam manasakroda vegam jiva vegam uttarapasta vegam etan vegam yo vishaheta dira sarvam apimam pritavim sashishyat.
There's someone's making a lot of noise there. I don't know where it's coming from.
Sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak, the mind's demands, the actions of anger, and the urges of the tongue, belly, and genitals, is qualified to make disciples all over the world. Purport. In Srimad Bhagavatam 6:1-9-10, Parikshit Maharaj placed a number of intelligent questions before Shukadev Goswami. One of these questions was, why do people undergo atonement if they cannot control their senses? For instance, a thief may know perfectly well that he may be arrested for stealing, and he may actually even see a thief arrested by the police, yet he continues to steal. Experience is gathered by hearing and seeing. One who is less intelligent gathers experience by seeing, and one who is more intelligent gathers experience by hearing. When an intelligent person hears from the law books and shastras or scriptures that stealing is not good and hears that a thief is punished when arrested, he refrains from theft. A less intelligent person may first have to be arrested and punished for stealing to learn to stop stealing. However, a rascal, a foolish man, may have the experience of both hearing and seeing, and may even be punished, but still he continues to steal. Even if such a person atones and is punished by the government, he will again commit theft as soon as he comes out of jail. If punishment in jail is considered atonement, what is the benefit of such atonement? Thus, Parikshit Maharaj inquired, drishta shrutabhyam yat papam janam apyatmano hitam karoti bhuyo vishvasha prayashchitam atokatam kvachin nirvartate badrat kvachit charati tatpuna prayashchitam atopartam manye kunjara shojavat. Should I continue?
Yeah, why don't you just finish the translation?
That's not a translation. He compared atonement to an elephant's bathing. The elephant may take a very nice bath in the river, but as soon as it comes onto the bank, it throws dirt all over its body. What then is the value of its bathing? Similarly, many spiritual practitioners chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and at the same time commit many forbidden things, thinking that their chanting will counteract their offenses. Of the 10 types of offenses one can commit while chanting the holy name of the Lord, this offense is called Namno Balad Yasya Hi Papa Buddhi, committing sinful activities on the strength of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Similarly, certain Christians go to church to confess their sins, thinking that confessing their sins before a priest and performing some penance will relieve them from the results of their weekly sins. As soon as Saturday is over and Sunday comes, they again begin their sinful activities, expecting to be forgiven the next Saturday. This kind of prayaschita or atonement is condemned by Parikshit Maharaj, the most intelligent king of his time. Shukadev Goswami, equally intelligent as befitting the spiritual master of Maharaj Parikshit, answered the king and confirmed that his statement concerning atonement was correct. A sinful activity cannot be counteracted by a pious activity. Thus, real prayaschita, atonement, is the awakening of our dormant Krishna consciousness.
I'd just like to open that up for a little bit of discussion, please. Nandapatni, I know that you've done some work with groups, and here it's saying, because I remember as a Catholic boy, I would go to confession. I think Jiva Mukta may be from a Catholic family also.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember going into the little confessional, forgive me, Father, for I have sinned, and you explain whatever wrong you've done. You didn't listen to your parents, or I stole a chocolate bar, or whatever it was at that time. But here Prabhupada is not giving much credence to this process of expressing one's regrets. And I'm just wondering, from your perspective, although this is, Prabhupada's emphasizing, he's going to emphasize the chanting of the holy names to really make a permanent improvement. But in terms of like psychology, modern psychology, isn't there something to be said about admitting, like, I think it's in the
making
AA
amends. Mm-hmm.
Making amends, but also admitting that this anartha that I'm trying to overcome, you're handing it over to Krishna, you're handing it over to God, that I'm powerless, that I'm in other words, you're not in denial. You're admitting whatever the weakness is.
Yeah, well, you have to get to the point of admission. So, for example, in the in the 12-step thing, they have this wonderful step, which is making a, I forget what they call it, searching moral inventory of oneself. So that's where you confront yourself about your own shortcomings, your own faults, if you will, character flaws, which I think, in the Christian tradition is an absolutely wonderful thing. I mean, I used to love the sentiment of confession because it's real humility. If you do it properly, it's real humility to take, a real hard look at yourself. And even in our Vaishnava tradition, when we talk about humility. There's, you know, one has to kind of flush it out really, and see how that is practiced within one's exchanges. You know,
Are you saying that by taking that moral inventory, it can be related to feeling oneself lower than the straw on the street?
Well, yeah, because you take a serious accountability for how you're behaving.
Mm-hmm.
And then the chaser after that is that you actually make an amends to people that you have harmed by your behavior, which is, incredibly valuable. And even if you cannot go and personally make an amends to someone that you have offended, you can engage in something that's called a living amends, which means that you completely say to yourself, I admit that I used to behave like this, and I will never behave like that again. That's the living amends, even if you don't go and apologize to the person. So personally, I mean, I'm not quoting Shastra here or anything, but I think that those behaviors, those techniques are pretty invaluable, actually, even within our own institution, because, people get themselves riled up, whatever society they belong to, and they make offenses and they offend each other. We all offend each other in some way. We're all culpable. There's no getting away from it. If you actually look at really what being lower than the straw in the street actually could mean in practical reality. You know what I mean? Anyway, that's just my two.
Thank you. We have a family therapist with us, our god sister Rasangi. Do you have anything to add to what Nanda Patni just said, Rasangi? Thank you for coming. Are you there? I see your name on the screen. I have to ask you to unmute because we can't hear you.
Unmute. Yeah,
Okay.
unmute me. I couldn't do it because I'm
You're
driving.
unmuted. You're unmuted. Did you hear what Nanda
Yeah, I
Patni?
love that. I love that stuff. I'm a very well-rounded devotee in that way. I explore and I want to know what works. And these kinds of inventories and self-examination, come on, you know that, Gora, from the David Wolf seminars.
Yes.
How do we get rid of anarthas? Do you know, I heard this morning at Mana Shiksha group that there's certain anarthas that Krishna will take care of, but there's certain anarthas that Balaram is in charge of that you have to make endeavor. Now, I have to review that. And that's kind of from the scriptures. There's, you know what I mean? There's, according to like Pralambasura, there's different demons. Huh?
Oh, yes. About 10 or 12. Yeah.
They represent different anarthas. And there are some that we totally have to take charge of and weed out. It's not like we can just wait for it to happen.
Right.
But we can practice these things and help ourselves heal and become more humble, more tolerant, more patient and happier. By the way, right? We become happier when we're less anxious and angry and feeling that the world has done me wrong and these people are doing me wrong. Who can be happy when you're living like that?
Correct.
Yeah. So I love that. I'm glad I came at the right time.
Yeah. The Mana Shiksha classes are every Monday morning, your time?
Unbelievable. 8:00 my time.
Oh, wow. That's 5:00 our time for Jivamukta, and it's a little early. Yeah.
But you know what? If you sign up, you get the recordings of them.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'd like to hear them. Jivamukta Prabhu was just talking about Raghunath Das Goswami's spirit of renunciation and, how his life was like lines in a rock. He was so strict. So it'd be nice to hear Raghunath Das Goswami's teachings in Mana Siksha.
But you know what it is, folks? He was gentle with his mind. My dear friend, he calls his mind my friend. He's not beating it with a shoe, as we've heard is one technique, but he's befriending his mind in order to get the cooperation of his mind to behave and to allow him to be, a devotee. Very beautiful.
Nice point. The contrasting with Jivan Mukta saying we have to be so strict. It's a fact. But at the same time, you're saying, yes, go ahead, Jivan Mukta.
I think we have to, we're all individual, and there's techniques that could work with one and maybe better than another. And I think the other thing that we risk sometimes in some of these exercises is that we get so, like, from my readings of Prabhupada's books and all these great devotees who really we should be emulating and looking at how they've come to the highest level of Krishna consciousness, is that they don't infatuate themselves with themselves, like they understand they're lower than the straw on the street, they become more tolerant than a tree, and their whole point is service to Krishna. And Prabhupada says in these first couple of verses that you cannot counteract sinful activity with pious activity. You counteract it through devotional service, through transcendental activity. And so what I find is that sometimes, like with these self-help groups, that it becomes so so focused on this yourself,
Self-indulgent.
we forget, just like we were just talking about, that actually Krishna consciousness is for Krishna's pleasure. It's to please Krishna. When we go out on Hari Nam, it's not to impress the public. It's not to put on a show for the public. It's to please Krishna, because Krishna is in everyone's heart, and if Krishna is pleased, they'll be pleased. But the focus has to be Krishna all the time. All the time. And I find that a lot of these self-help groups, the focus is me. Me. And it becomes like, it gets to the point, like I can't tolerate listening to these self-help groups. I just can't, because it's just like, oh my God, like it's just so focused on the individual, and you lose sight of Krishna.
It doesn't have to be like that. I hear what you're saying, but it actually, in true essence, it doesn't have to be like that. But I totally acknowledge that, people can get caught up in that, self-absorption. But that's not really what the true spiritual spirit of the thing is meant to be,
And I agree that there's so much I'm not saying that there isn't validity. There's definitely, we have to work on that. But we also have to realize that by just serving and by developing a humble attitude, Lord Chaitanya's recommendation was humble, like be humble, be tolerant, right? Be humble like a blade of grass, or tolerant in a tree. Devoid of all sense of false prestige. Offer all respects to others. Expect no respect in return, right? Expect nothing in return.
That then you can always chant. Then you can always.
If we follow those 5 principles, those are the principles Lord Chaitanya gave us. If we follow those 5 principles, then the mirror of the mind will be cleansed, because we can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. And all the qualities of the Vaishnava, of the pure devotee, of the resident of Goloka will automatically manifest, because they're already there. They're already there.
So are you able to do that, Prabhu?
No.
Are you feeling?
No, because I have to, because I still have to try to be humble.
Not critical.
And tolerant.
I have a question. Do you work in the world? Are you out in the world much?
Oh, yes. Yes.
He's got like something like 7 or 8 trailer parks.
7 or 8 what?
Trailer parks.
Oh, because the world is a tough place, and we try to have qualities that reflect being a devotee, and we try to treat people in a way that Krishna would like us to treat people, but not everybody can just do that automatically, especially if you were raised in a family and are not treated well. There's a lot of issues that stand between the goal and doing it. So some of these tools I see as perfect tools to use in the service of Krishna. We're not doing them just to please ourselves. People, maybe other people, but as devotees, we can do these to help improve our service and our service attitude.
Mataji, please don't take it the wrong way. I do accept that. I do feel that. It's just that sometimes I'm just saying that when I hear, I haven't been involved in the devotee kind of these support groups, but I know that some of these other people that I've listened to, they can't, like non-devotees, like I can't listen to them. It's just so self-absorbed. It's like I can't get it, even though their objectives are also very good, and they want to at least ostensibly at least help people. But I just find that it's just inward. It's just absorbed, and they sometimes come right out and say it. You got to work on yourself. It's yourself. It's all about you. And you kind of get lost in yourself. And actually our objective is we should lose ourselves and think of Krishna. Chant Krishna's name. Think of Krishna. Because why am I thinking of myself? Like, I get to always think of myself now. And so in a sense, it's like a very subtle way of becoming really, again, self-absorbed instead of Krishna.
If used wrongly, I would put the addendum of if used wrongly, because let's not forget that people have had enormous needs committed, devotees have committed suicide, devotees have suffered from depression, and we can't just rubber stamp, we can't just rubber stamp it. But I totally hear what you're saying. I mean, and the whole new age movement is massively self-absorbed, and it does become nauseating. But I think Rasanki's point is that one can utilize things in a very valuable manner to improve one's Krishna consciousness. I think that's just the point. It's as a contribution. It's not dodging the tenets of practicing Krishna consciousness. It's just very helpful. For example, I mean, people have taken all sorts of advice in doing all sorts of things in management of the movement, in medical care, in hospice. We utilize a lot of things to have our organization become even more functional. And it's not that we haven't been dysfunctional. We have.
But I think even in that regard, I think Gaur Prabhu, you might be able to help me out in this. Wasn't there an instance once during a GBC meeting where the devotees were getting all these advice on proper business management and this and that? Prabhupada, what did Prabhupada want them to do? Prabhupada wanted them just to chant Hare Krishna and follow the regular principles, and everything else would be fine. Prabhupada wasn't the type that said, yeah, let's bring in some expert business managers to help us in our GBC duties. Like that's not what something that the Prabhupada did.
I can think of 3 books that the GBC recommended. I'm not criticizing them for this. I'm just making an observation. I remember when I was in the Ottawa temple around 77, we were told to look at a movie called In Search of Excellence. In Search of Excellence. And in that movie, it showed the manager of a grocery store going around to his best customers and getting guidance from his customers on how to better manage the store. Like, in other words, be humble and take feedback. You know, I mean, this is being recorded right now, so I offer my obeisances to all my GBC godbrothers and god sisters as well. However, I have put in the Srila Prabhupada Disciples group where I have amassed 900 Prabhupada disciples, and I put out the question, when was the last time your GBC asked you for your advice about anything? And I never received any answer. So, you know, here's
Or
this.
also, Gora, you also asked, when was the last time we had a Ishtagosti?
Mm.
Oh,
I thought that was very, very
Hari-
pertinent.
Hari
Yeah,
Bol,
Hare
Hari
Krishna
Prabhu.
is-
Thanks. Yeah.
Haribol.
And
Sorry
so,
for being so late.
so
but-
I get Jivan Mukta's point, just like Nanda Patni gets it, and just like Rasangi gets it. And I think we're all in total support of what Jivan Mukta Prabhu is saying. At the same time, it's like even devotees, they've been chanting Hare Krishna mantra for 40, 50, 60 or whatever, but still some of us don't get that, hey, Prabhupada's mood was that he got people on board. He knew how to help people feel important. And Prabhupada was not a micromanager. He'd say, okay, Brahmananda, you go to Africa and open a temple. So and so, you go to Germany and open a temple. And you know, and he'd have letters and exchanges. But I'm just,
I would.
I think
Gaur
So
Prabhu,
I meant,
Go ahead.
Prabhu, if I
But
could just say one thing, that brings
go
us
ahead.
back to what we're reading. If I
Go ahead.
could just say one thing.
Sure.
Sorry, Hari Prabhu. Prabhu, like there's something there. Like, why look at, who cares? GBC, this or that. You have the nectar of instruction. The first instruction is what? You know, control your senses, right? Like we're talking about all this, right? So if you're chanting for 40, 50 years and you're still kind of spinning your wheels, then maybe you're not letting go. Maybe you're not letting go of the desire for sense gratification. Because
Right.
as soon as you do, Prabhupada says, as soon as we give up that desire to satisfy our senses instead of Krishna's senses, at that very moment, you will become Krishna conscious.
Mm.
And then it doesn't matter what anyone else is doing. And the more
so
we
my
hold on,
question in that is, so by your own effort, you're gonna get there?
by our own effort,
Yeah,
by
because you said
chanting
as
and
soon as
praying.
we stop, yeah, but it requires association.
Of
Just
course.
remember what it was like. I don't remember what it was like when we had Prabhupada around. Nobody was thinking about, oh, I gotta go, take care of this or that or my body. We totally forgot about everything, including our bodies. One time we were in LA, and Prabhupada finished the lecture, and I tell you, the atmosphere was so ecstatic, you can almost see it in the air. It was electric. It was just like, so Prabhupada looked and he got, and he said, oh, this is so nice. We're gonna have this in Vaikuntha too. So
they were going to have ISKCON in Vaikuntha.
So, but that, is by association, Prabhu. Sarusanga. I think that, yeah, the effort has to be there. Mother Jashoda really, really worked hard to grab Krishna and tie him. And when Krishna saw that her effort was so, she gave her best, then okay, he gave her mercy. The word kripa, mercy, is composed of two things, kri and pa. You give and you receive. So in Lord Chaitanya's case, it's given to us freely, but I noticed that it's only by mercy. It's a descending process. It's not that we have one formula, and people would say, oh, I chant 40, 50 years, and it's, yeah, it's fine, and you following all the rules are good. Yes, very good. You follow Gurudev. and that is very important. But never underestimate the power of sadhu sangha. So we should always look for that. I forgot the feed store. Sorry, I'm driving, and that I think that we can receive that that is a side effect of being Krishna conscious, that automatically our sense of enjoyment is going to follow us, not us it. Isn't it? It says that with folded hands, liberation and
Mukti and bhakti.
And bhakti is there, to be off, to
At our
render service to
doorstep
the
with
body.
folded hands. At our doorstep
Yes.
with folded hands. Mukti.
Yeah. So
And
I think that they asked.
enjoyment.
Yeah. So I don't know what I just started. I'm sorry, I don't mean to butt in. And you mentioned something before, and
It
I didn't get to
read.
hear.
It started out with Jivan Mukta Prabhu reading how Prabhupada was saying that, going to the confessional and asking the priest to forgive you for your sins, that's not sufficient atonement, because one needs to purify their heart. And then I took it I digressed a bit, asking Nanda Patni, because she's had experience with self-help groups. Isn't there something to even, I'm not trying to contradict Prabhupada, but I said, isn't there something to be said about acknowledging and confessing your weakness? Because if you're in denial about it and you're thinking on you don't really have any problems, or that you're above it all, but actually you're not, you can go on for a long time. And Jiva Mukta used the example of spinning your wheels. And Rasangi was also pointing out that these are tools, that there are tools that we can utilize as devotees to help us navigate our ways out of these lower modes. So I've said enough. Whoever else wants to jump in.
Yeah. So admitting is a very important thing to see where we are. But
Jivan
Prabhupada
Mukta-
told us too.
Sorry.
He was saying.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
I'm just concerned that Jivan Mukta may have something else he wants to say.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
Narihari Prabhu, you go ahead.
Oh, geez.
And there was Rasangi. Is there anything more you want to add?
Yeah.
And
No.
we're not neti people. We're not neti. We can
Exactly.
use everything in Krishna's
Yeah.
service. It's all over our scriptures.
Yes, yay.
Everywhere. Please, let's not be those, not that people. Those are the Mayavadis, right?
No,
Prabhupada said,
no, we're not that.
Yeah.
Prabhupada
So-
said, if no matter what he's given, give me millions of dollars, I'll use it in Krishna's service. Give me land and I'll use it. He didn't say, no, that's Maya. No, we're going to use it for Krishna.
The other day,
So
we're watching.
give me self-help and I'll use it in Krishna's service, right?
Yeah, right. I'll
We-
become
Well,
the tool.
a better person.
Yeah.
I'll become kinder. My heart will heal and I won't be so angry and miserable. I'll be a happy devotee and that'll be
Right.
good service, right? That's good service.
We have with
I
us
can-
tonight for the
Yes.
first
but
time.
try to think that it.
Sorry,
What?
go ahead.
No,
I was just trying to say,
this is what I was trying to remember.
we have with us tonight Jalangi Devi Dasi, all the way from Berlin. It's her first time. I'm wondering if she has a comment or a question to make, because she's very humble. We don't hear so much from her unless we ask. So Jalangi, do you have some comment or question?
Jalangi, Hare
Hi.
Krishna.
Thank you for everything I could hear from you. You are all such advanced devotees, disciples of Prabhupada. You have so much experience, so much knowledge. I was asking myself today, after reading a little bit of Nectar of Instruction, a kind of question, how many times Krishna can forgive? I heard once on the lecture a number, like 6 or 7. That's super soul is allowing, and after 6th or 7th time, something must happen. A kind of suffering must come that we learn the lesson. But you have more experience. Maybe you could add something on this subject.
Do you mean like
Yeah.
if we have a fall down or we make an offense, we can do this like 6 or 7 times? Is that what you mean?
Yes, there are many things.
Uh-huh.
We are making mistakes, or we are attached non-stop.
I'm
Are
wondering where
you saying there's a limit?
I'm wondering where you read that, Didi. Where do you remember where you heard that?
What?
I'm wondering where you read that. The 6 or 7 times we can be forgiven. Do you remember?
I heard like 30 years ago on the lecture somewhere in Poland.
Oh, I see.
Maybe one devotee said, we have, like Jesus said in Christianity, we have that. He said, when he was asked how many times we should forgive, Master, and he said 7 mal 50. I don't remember the
Krishna Chandra?
Yeah, can I interject? So in that part of the Bible, that his disciples were saying,
7
so how many
times.
times should we forgive? Like 7 times, and then Jesus corrected and said no,
7
at
times.
77 times.
Times, yeah. So, and remember Shishupal?
Yes, 99 times for
One-
him.
Yeah.
And I heard that
But the
Prabhupada said
difference-
something on this also. Maybe you
So,
can.
well, Prabhupada, yeah, we had to take all this and understand that, you know, we had to use a little bit of common sense, and we know when we're doing something, and you know, maybe he said it's very bad to do something again and again on the strength of, oh, I'll chant Hare Krishna and then it'll be forgiven. But in the case of oh, hi. Sorry, excuse me.
He's got to
I
order
need
something for the
7
cows.
bags of sweet tea.
So
That'll be it.
he was
Yeah.
probably going to
Let's
say in the
cover
case of
also.
Ajamil,
Yes.
he
cob.
did so many
Yeah.
sinful activities,
7.
but he never offended the Vaishnavas because there were no Vaishnavas around.
Huh.
And so that was his qualification. Even though he wasn't trying to say Krishna's name, Narayan's name, he was calling his son. In all sincerity, he had never committed Vaishnava aparad. But I read something or heard something recently, and unfortunately I can't give you.
I'm George, and it's
Maybe someone else heard it. It was probably at Rupa Goswami conference, or maybe it was on this with the Chutananda.
What
Who
is
knows?
it? What
But
is it?
It's that Krishna will give you a reaction or something that seems severe, like a punishment, in order to completely eradicate your attachment to something. You may not remember, it might be from other lives, but your subtle body and mind goes with you to each body, and you can't become Krishna conscious. A person, not you in particular, isn't becoming Krishna conscious because of a particular attachment or sinful activity that they've committed over and over again in lifetimes. So Krishna gives you the exact punishment. Maybe you are starving in that lifetime, or or you have a skin disease.
Oh,
and
the
you don't.
Sudama Vipra story.
Oh, it was Sudama Vipra story. So anyway, Krishna is giving you
808-965,
some punishment
95.
to break that
85.
attachment. And although you don't remember what the attachment is, Krishna is personally taking care of you and breaking your attachment for you. And I just thought that was the most wonderful thing, because I often thought, well, you know, what is the point of karma when you don't remember why you're suffering?
I have a quick answer. So Jalangi, that's our god sister Bhava Tarini. She attended over 200 classes of Srila Prabhupada in person.
Not classes. I saw Srila Prabhupada 200 times. They did morning walks.
Okay.
Darshans.
Okay.
I was thinking after you said 200 classes, I should look up
Oh,
all
sorry.
the dates
About to
of
go
classes
inside?
I went to and
Can we
calculate
mute
that.
you for a second? Can you mute yourself? Because
Oh, sure.
Your
Here
Hari's
we go.
voice
Yeah, I'm muting it.
a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
I was just thinking of a story I remember hearing, Jalangi, where one devotee was acting like a nonsense. This Prabhupada was either in Mumbai or in Calcutta, and he kept drifting away from the movement and kind of like going away, coming back, hanging out with this yogi that was teaching him, how to put money in one, putting something in his nose and coming out the other, like mystic cities, that kind of thing. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj asked Srila Prabhupada, just how many times, can we forgive a devotee, like if someone's acting like a nonsense? And Prabhupada said, there's no limit to Lord Nityananda's mercy, to his compassion. So I think sometimes as devotees we may be a little bit what's the word I'm looking for? Prabhupada once, devotee was saying, Srila Prabhupada, the big devotees are coming, and Prabhupada said, big devotees? He's one time he said big devotees. He said big devotee means big-hearted devotee. And another time Prabhupada said, big devotees, we want to become small devotees. So, Jiva Mukta, you want to throw something out? You have a comment on this?
No, just listening.
Okay. So yeah, in terms
Ramananda
of
Prabhu told
compassion-
me,
Go ahead.
Ramananda Prabhu said something about devotees who was a favorite. And he said Prabhupada had no favorites.
Huh.
There was no favorites.
I heard, when
And
it
he was
came to
loving-
management, I heard that Karandar was like right next to Prabhupada, and then after Karandar was
And he called Tamal Krishna his diamond.
and he said that Hari
But
Kesh,
it-
he said that Hari Kesh was Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's favorite grandson.
Well, I just go for Brahmananda was there from the beginning. I think he
Right.
saw a lot of things.
Yeah.
But that's kind of like the question that Yudhishthira Maharaj asked. It looks like you're part. How come Sisupal? We all saw his soul enter your body, enter the body of Krishna. We all saw it. So Yudhishthira Maharaj asking Narada Muni, what? And so then sorry. Then he said it's gonna be a.
Your voice cut out. Can't hear you. Hello. Can't hear you. The voice is gone. It's gone blank.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, he had to go to the back of the truck so we could load up the sweet feed for the cows.
Okay. Anyway, we're a little after 9 p.m. here.
Okay.
But it was really.
I'm so sorry we missed it.
Jalangi, it's so important that you come because you are able to generate so much nice discussion, and we've really been missing Jivan Mukta's association because he's such a responsible father and husband. He's like doing so much service to care for his family. So we're not always able to. He's like Lord Chaitanya hiding his ears. But anyway, we're going to be doing this again Wednesday night. So I hope everyone can come. And Rasangi, it's so nice to have you as well and have your insights. And I'd love to sign up for that Mana Shiksha discussion. How many devotees come for that with Raghunath Das Goswami?
There's 32 today.
32.
And Manjari sings all of these amazing, beautiful prayers, and Vasanti comments, and it's very deep. Very, very, very.
Can you
deep.
send me the link, please?
Yeah, I'll send you the link. Just sign up. I'm pretty sure you can still come on.
Okay.
And then you get access to all the classes.
And who's giving the classes?
What classes were?
The ones
Manjari?
we're watching.
Oh, I see.
Honestly.
And Vasanti.
Oh, no.
I see. Okay.
Oh, that's a different one.
Yeah.
And
all
of
right.
course, Madhurya Kadambini is fabulous.
Oh, that's
That
when?
was last night at 4
Oh, yeah,
o'clock.
that's
Every
one.
Sunday.
Yeah.
Sunday.
It's Nimai Chaitanya, is that his name?
Yeah.
Yes.
Very
Yeah.
wonderful reading
So
together.
that's 7 p.m. my time then, right?
And there's about 20 people there.
If it's 4 o'clock your time, then it's 7 p.m. my time.
Yeah, not too late.
Sunday, Madhurya Kandambini.
I'm going to send you both links.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
You can
Thank you.
share them.
Thank you very much, everybody, for coming tonight. Thank you for your association. Please accept my respectful obeisance.
Panchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha.